The kitchen lights glowed soft gold against the storm raging in my chest. Behind Olivia, my son's fiancée, her wedding dress hung pristine and untouched, white silk shimmering like innocence itself. But her words, they sliced through me, sharper than any blade. The best gift you could give us, Eleanor, is to disappear permanently. Her plastic smile stretched across her face, and my son James, he didn't even look at me. He just nodded, as if I were a piece of furniture cluttering their perfect house. For a moment, the room blurred. The granite countertops I'd paid for, the oak cabinets I'd chosen, they all seemed to laugh back at me, mocking my sacrifice. My entire life savings, reduced to some money once. But here's what they didn't know. I wasn't broken. Something inside me shifted that night, like a lock clicking into place, and once it turned, nothing would ever be the same. If you've ever wondered how far a mother can be pushed before she fights back, stay with me, because this story is about to get very real. Asterisk, asterisk, if you've ever felt dismissed, betrayed, or made to feel invisible, or maybe you've experienced the deepest loneliness, or that unbearable pain of losing those you love most, share it. Leave a comment, tell me where you're watching from, and don't forget to subscribe, because maybe the next story will remind you of your own strength. Asterisk, asterisk, 3 years earlier, I never could have imagined standing in that kitchen, being told I was disposable. Back then, I believed in promises, in family, in loyalty, in the weight of sacrifice. When my husband, David, passed away, the Victorian home we had restored together in Portland became too heavy to hold on to. Every corner carried his memory, the stained glass window he'd polished every Sunday, the rose garden we'd planted side by side. Letting it go felt like ripping out a piece of my heart. But I told myself it was for James, for his future. He and Olivia wanted a house in Seattle, something modern, bright, perfect for starting a family. I sold my home and handed them everything, $120,000, my entire life savings, money meant to keep me safe in my later years. I can still remember James's voice on the phone that day. "Mom, this means the world. You'll always have a place with us." Olivia chimed in, sugary sweet, "Of course, Eleanor, you're part of our home, forever, forever." That word echoed like a hymn in my head as I signed the check. I imagined holidays spent together, grandchildren playing at my feet, Sunday dinners where my chair at the table would always be waiting. I thought I was building a future filled with warmth. Instead, what I bought was exile. Every time I stepped into their house, no, our house, I felt the air shift. Olivia's eyes measured me like I was an intruder. I ignored it at first. I told myself she was stressed, that marriage was overwhelming, that it would pass, but it didn't. Her sighs grew louder, her smiles tighter, her whispers sharper, and James, my only son, slowly drifted to her side, as if gratitude were too heavy a burden to carry. My sacrifices turned invisible, swallowed by their entitlement. Still, I tried. I arranged flowers for their parties, cooked meals when they were too busy, paid bills they conveniently forgot. I told myself this was family, that my place was safe, that my love, my loyalty, would always mean something. But standing there, listening to Olivia tell me the best gift I could give was my disappearance, I realized the truth. They had taken my money, my kindness, and my trust, and built a prison with it, and that prison, it was about to become theirs. Asterisk, asterisk. The next morning, I tried to pretend things were normal. I busied myself in the kitchen, arranging the wedding flowers I'd spent hours picking up from the market. White lilies, pale roses, hydrangeas, delicate, expensive, fragile. I thought maybe, just maybe, the beauty would soften Olivia's mood, but when she walked in, her eyes didn't linger on the flowers. They narrowed at me. Double quotes, "Eleanor, do you have to touch everything? The florist could have handled this. Honestly, you're making things harder." Her voice was sharp, cutting across the quiet morning like glass, shattering. I froze, a stem trembling in my hand. "I just wanted to help," I said softly. She smirked. "If you really wanted to help, you'd check into a hotel. This weekend isn't about you, it's about us." Before I could respond, James came in, phone in hand, scrolling through messages. He didn't even look at me. "Mom, can't you just ease up? Your negativity is ruining the vibe." Negativity. The word stung worse than any slap. I thought of the hours I'd spent sewing ribbons onto table settings, of the money I'd slipped into Olivia's palm when the caterer demanded an extra deposit, of the countless small rescues I'd made without ever asking for thanks. And now, in my own son's mouth, all of it was twisted into negativity. I wanted to scream, to tell them how ungrateful they were, but the words lodged in my throat. Instead, I heard myself whisper, "Where exactly am I supposed to go?" Olivia lifted her manicured nails to the light, inspecting them as if I weren't even there. "A hotel, your sister's. Anywhere but here. Honestly, I don't care. Just be gone before tomorrow." The flowers in front of me blurred. The hydrangeas looked suddenly grotesque, their petals like mocking faces. My knees threatened to buckle, but I gripped the counter and forced myself to stay upright, and then James delivered the final blow, clearing his throat, his voice flat. "It's really more Olivia's house now. She's handled the finances, made the improvements. You just gave us some money once." Some money once. Those words echoed like a death sentence, erasing everything I had given, everything I had lost. I stared at my son, wondering how long it would take before he realized what those words had cost him, because the day he dismissed my sacrifice as some money once was the day I decided to stop saving him. The house was suddenly too quiet. The laughter from downstairs, Olivia's sharp giggles, James's low murmurs floated up the staircase like smoke from a fire. I could no longer breathe in. I walked to the guest room, not my room, never allowed to call it that, always the guest room, as though I were a stranger who might leave at any moment. The walls, painted a soft gray, seemed to close in on me as I opened the closet and pulled out my worn suitcase. My hands trembled as I folded clothes, but not from weakness. It was something else, something colder, something sharper. I paused at the photograph on the nightstand. David, smiling in the garden of our old Portland home. His eyes, captured forever in that frame, were steady, kind, unwavering. I whispered, "Don't worry, sweetheart. I'm not breaking. I'm shifting." A strange calm settled over me, the kind that comes when the worst has already happened and nothing left can shock you. Olivia expected tears, perhaps begging ammunition she could parade later to her friends. James probably expected silence, the same silence I had given him for years. But I had given them enough silence. As I zipped the suitcase, I heard them downstairs debating whether to turn my space into a yoga studio or an office. Their voices rose and fell like vultures circling a carcass. They thought I was gone already, but I wasn't gone, not yet. I slipped out the front door, the night air damp with Seattle rain. The streetlights cast long reflections on the pavement, fractured beams of gold across dark water. I sat in my car, gripping the steering wheel, and for the first time in years, I didn't feel helpless. I felt ready. I pulled out my phone and dialed Victor Ramirez, my attorney. The line clicked, and his voice came through, weary but alert. "Eleanor, it's Saturday night. Is everything all right?" I swallowed hard, my voice steady. "Victor, I need you to pull every document related to the house purchase. All of it." There was a pause, then the sound of frantic typing. What happened? I stared back at the glowing windows of the house I had bought but no longer belonged to. "They told me to disappear, and I will. But not before I take back what's mine." Victor's voice on the other end carried both caution and curiosity. "Eleanor, slow down. Tell me what happened." So I did. I told him about the kitchen confrontation, about Olivia's smug demand that I vanish, about James reducing $120,000, my entire life's work, to some money once. My voice stayed eerily calm, but inside, every word scorched like fire. There was silence as Victor typed. Then he exhaled, a low whistle. "Eleanor, I've been worried this might happen." I gripped the phone tighter. "What do you mean?" He cleared his throat. "When you first expressed concerns about Olivia's spending, I had you sign additional paperwork. You may not remember. Grief does strange things after a loss. But those documents, they protected you." The streetlight above me flickered, casting shifting shadows across the dashboard. My pulse hammered as I whispered, "Protected me how?" Victor's tone sharpened. "That $120,000 wasn't a gift. Legally, it was a loan. And more importantly, your name is on the deed. You are a co-owner of that house, Eleanor. 40%. Binding and enforceable." For a moment, the rain outside sounded like applause against the windshield. My breath caught in my throat. "Are you serious? Dead serious? The mortgage company lists you as co-borrower. The county recorder's office recognizes your ownership stake. Olivia never signed the acknowledgement forms I sent, but that doesn't matter. The deed shows your name. You have every right to that property. I nearly dropped the phone. All those months of being treated like an unwanted guest. All those whispers about me overstaying. And yet legally, undeniably, I had more right to that house than Olivia ever did. Through the glowing window across the street, I saw her, twirling in her wedding veil, laughing into her phone, oblivious to the storm about to break. James uncorked a bottle of champagne, celebrating what they thought was their freedom from me. My lips curved into a smile they wouldn't recognize, not desperate, not broken, but cold, certain. "Victor," I said, my voice steady, "on Monday morning, I want you to prepare a notice of intent to sell my share. Let's see how quickly their perfect little world unravels." By Sunday night, the house still glowed with celebration. Laughter spilled from the windows, music thudded through the walls, and Olivia's shrill voice carried upstairs as she bragged to her bridesmaids about the fairy tale reception waiting for them at the waterfront hotel. I sat in my car across the street, the windshield streaked with rain, fingers drumming against my phone. For months, maybe years, they had treated me like an endless fountain of money, of time, of devotion, but fountains dry up. And tonight, I was done flowing. I dialed the hotel. A crisp female voice answered. "Waterfront Hotel Events, this is Jessica." "Jessica," I said calmly. "This is Eleanor Mitchell. I need to speak with your catering manager about tomorrow's wedding reception." There was a pause, the faint shuffle of papers. "Oh, Mrs. Mitchell, how exciting. The Mitchell-Carter wedding, correct. Everything is prepared. The ballroom, the floral arches, the champagne towers." "Yes," I interrupted softly. "About that, I need to cancel the reception." The line went silent. "Cancel, ma'am? It's less than 24 hours away. The food is prepared, staff scheduled, I understand." I cut in, my tone sharp as glass. "And I'll pay whatever cancellation fees are required. But the contract is under my name, with my deposit and my credit card." "Correct." More rustling. Jessica's voice faltered. "Yes, the paperwork does show your name, Mrs. Mitchell. But surely you want to consult the bride and groom first." I looked back at the house, where Olivia twirled in her veil before the kitchen window, the picture of joy. My lips curved into something that wasn't quite a smile. "No need. I'm honoring their wishes. They told me I wasn't part of the family anymore. Consider this my way of disappearing." For a beat, the only sound was the patter of rain against the roof of my car. Then Jessica exhaled. "Very well, ma'am. I'll process the cancellation immediately." 20 minutes later, I was checked into a modest room at the Hampton Inn across town. The hum of the air conditioner replaced the echo of their laughter. I ordered room service, a simple steak and glass of red wine, and for the first time in years, every bite tasted like controlled. At 11:47 p.m., my phone buzzed violently on the nightstand. Olivia's voice screeched through the speaker, raw and panicked. "What did you do?" "The country club called you, canceled our reception. 200 people are expecting dinner tomorrow." I muted the TV, leaned back against the headboard, and spoke with deliberate calm. "I honored your request, Olivia. You wanted me gone, so I'm gone. And with me went the $20,000 I was paying for your fairy tale." There was stunned silence, then a low, broken sob. For the first time in a long time, I felt no guilt, only satisfaction. Because if they thought I was powerless, they were about to learn. Money was never their strength. It was mine. The phone hadn't stopped buzzing since midnight. By morning, I'd counted 37 missed calls and over 40 texts. Most of them were from James, but I ignored every single one until 9 a.m. When his name flashed again and something inside me decided it was time. I answered. His voice was clipped, strained. "Mom, we need to talk." Face to face. 2 hours later, he and Olivia were standing in my hotel room doorway, looking like they hadn't slept. James's tie hung crooked. Olivia's mascara was smeared, her eyes swollen. For once, they didn't look untouchable. They looked desperate. I motioned for them to sit. They did, perched on the edge of the bed like schoolchildren waiting for punishment. "Why are you doing this?" James demanded, though his voice wavered. "Canceling the reception, threatening the house. You're tearing this family apart." I let out a short, humorless laugh. "Family? You mean the family that told me the best gift I could give was to disappear?" Silence. Olivia twisted her ring, eyes darting anywhere but mine. I leaned forward, my gaze steady. Do you have any idea how much I've given you in the last 3 years? James started to speak, but I cut him off. No, you don't, because you never wanted to know. I pulled out a folder from my bag and flipped it open. Check stubs, bank transfers, receipts. I laid them out on the table one by one, like pieces of evidence in a trial. 120,000 for the house, another 45,000 in emergencies, groceries, utilities, car repairs, medical bills. That's $165,000. James, that's more than most people make in 2 years. And you called it, what was it again? I looked him dead in the eye. Some money once. His face paled. Olivia shifted uncomfortably, her hands tightening around each other. That's not fair, James muttered. We were always going to pay you back, were you? I shot back, my voice sharp, because I haven't heard those words from either of you until this moment. What I have heard are complaints about me being in the way, accusations of negativity, demands that I disappear. That's not family, James. That's financial abuse. The words hung heavy in the air. Olivia's head snapped up. Financial abuse. That's ridiculous. Is it? I asked quietly, leaning closer. Because from where I'm sitting, you've conditioned me to believe my only value in this family is how much I can pay. You take, and when I finally set a boundary, you call it cruelty. No, that's abuse, and it ends now. Neither of them spoke. The silence stretched until it became suffocating. For the first time, I saw fear flicker in Olivia's eyes, and that flicker was all I needed. Asterisk. By Monday afternoon, we were seated in Victor Ramirez's office, a room lined with shelves of leather-bound law books, the air thick with quiet authority. The rain had followed us from the hotel, tapping steadily against the tall windows, as if even the city wanted to witness what came next. James and Olivia sat across from me, pale and restless. Olivia's fingers drummed nervously against her designer handbag. James avoided my eyes, staring at the polished oak table like it held answers he couldn't find. Victor opened a thick folder, spreading documents across the desk with deliberate care. Let's review, he said, his voice clipped, professional. Mrs. Mitchell contributed $120,000 toward the down payment. The mortgage lists her as a co-borrower. The deed shows her ownership at 40%. All of this is binding, legal, and enforceable. James's head jerked up. 40%. That's impossible. We never agreed. Victor raised a hand, silencing him. You may not have signed the acknowledgement forms, Mr. Mitchell, but your mother did, and the county recognizes her stake. Whether you like it or not, she owns nearly half your home. Olivia's breath hitched. This can't be happening. We're about to be married. This house is supposed to be ours. I leaned forward, my voice steady. It is ours, Olivia, mine, and James's. But here's the problem. I don't feel welcome in it. So we need to decide how to move forward. Their eyes flicked toward me, wide and wary. I held their gaze. Option 1. I said clearly, you buy me out at market value. The house is worth roughly $450,000. 40% of that is $180,000. You pay me that amount, and the house is yours, free and clear. James's mouth opened, but no words came. Option 2, I continued. We put the house on the market. It sells. The proceeds are split according to ownership percentages. You'll walk away with your share, and so will I. Olivia clutched James's arm. We can't sell. Not right before the wedding. Everyone will know. Victor leaned back, steepling his fingers. Legally, those are her rights. You have 30 days to make a decision. The silence in the room was deafening. I could hear Olivia's shallow breaths, James's fingers tapping against the table. They were cornered, and they knew it. I allowed the silence to stretch, then added softly, there's a third option, a generous one, but it comes with conditions. Olivia's head snapped up, desperate. What conditions? I smiled, not with kindness, but with precision. We'll get to that. But understand this, the days of taking without consequences are over. Asterisk. Olivia leaned forward so quickly her chair scraped against the hardwood floor. Her eyes were wide, bloodshot, but burning with the kind of hope only desperation brings. What conditions? She demanded, her voice brittle. I didn't answer right away. I let the silence stretch, the ticking of the old wall clock filling the room. Victor folded his hands and waited. his gaze flicking toward me with the faintest trace of curiosity. Finally, I spoke, slowly, clearly, deliberately. Option 3. You don't pay me the full 180,000. Instead, I settle for 130, but in exchange, I leaned closer, locking eyes with Olivia. Your life changes. James shifted uneasily. Changes how? First, I said, sliding a piece of paper across the table. Olivia gets a job. Within 60 days, and she keeps it for at least 2 years. Her face went pale. A job. I manage the household. No, I cut her off. You manage nothing but spending. From now on, you contribute income, not just bills. Victor coughed politely, but there was a gleam of approval in his eye. Second, I continued, you sell one of your cars, use the money to pay down debt, and there will be no new debt, not a credit card, not a loan, not one unnecessary luxury purchase. James bristled. That's possible. You can't afford your lifestyle, I snapped, my voice sharper now. You've been living on my charity for years. That ends. I slid the next paper forward, a printed template budget, categories, limits, numbers. Third, you live on this budget, cooking at home, canceling memberships you don't use, no more $400 restaurant bills, no more shopping trips disguised as emergencies. Olivia's lips trembled. You can't control how we live. I smiled, cold and thin. I'm not controlling you. I'm giving you a choice. Either live responsibly under my terms, or lose the house altogether. The words dropped like stones into water. Victor cleared his throat. Mrs. Mitchell is being more than generous. She could force a sale tomorrow. This arrangement allows you to keep your home, but only if you honor every condition. I added the final strike. And if you violate a single one, the full market value becomes due immediately. No excuses. James stared at the papers as if they were shackles. Olivia looked like she might faint. And for the first time, I didn't feel like the unwanted guest in their home. I felt like the judge. So, I said softly, savoring the moment, what will it be? Asterisk. 2 nights after the meeting, I was settling into my hotel room with a cup of tea when a hard knock rattled the door. The sound was sharp, insistent, the kind of knock that belongs to authority. I opened it to find 2 uniformed officers standing in the hallway, rainwater dripping from their jackets. One of them, a younger detective with intelligent eyes, introduced himself. Mrs. Mitchell, I'm Detective Rodriguez with the Seattle Police Department. We received a report concerning you. My stomach tightened. A report. He nodded. An anonymous caller claimed you might be the victim of financial elder abuse and possibly experiencing cognitive decline. They asked us to conduct a welfare check. Behind him, the fluorescent light flickered, painting the corridor in a cold, sterile glow. I didn't need to guess who had made that call. Olivia's fingerprints were all over it. For a moment, my hands trembled. The humiliation of strangers questioning my sanity, it cut deeper than Olivia's insults in the kitchen. But then something steadier took hold. A spark. I gestured for the officers to come in. Detective, I assure you, my mind has never been clearer. I pulled a binder from my bag, the one Victor had urged me to keep, and spread it across the desk. Bank transfers, canceled checks, mortgage documents, all meticulously organized. Over the last 3 years, I've given my son and his fiancée $165,000, I said, my voice calm, deliberate. Groceries, utilities, car repairs, medical bills, on top of the down payment that makes me a 40% owner of their home. And when I finally set boundaries, they decided the only explanation must be that I'd lost my mind. The detective flipped through the pages, his brow furrowed. This is substantial. I tapped the table. This isn't the story of a confused old woman. This is the story of a woman finally refusing to be exploited. From the corner of my eye, I saw his partner exchange a glance with him. Not pity, respect. Detective Rodriguez closed the binder and nodded. Mrs. Mitchell, I'm satisfied that you're competent and in control of your finances. We'll close this case as unfounded. But if you'd like, we can also document what appears to be financial dependency on their part. For the first time that evening, I smiled, not bitterly, not coldly, but with a quiet kind of triumph. Yes, detective, please do, because if they want to play hardball, they'll soon discover I've got the bat. The rain outside had stopped when the officers left. I stood by the window, watching the city lights glimmer on the wet pavement, and whispered to myself, "Nice try, Olivia, but you just handed me more power than I ever imagined." 2 days after the welfare check, I was sipping coffee in the hotel restaurant when a shadow fell across my table. I looked up to see a woman about my age, her silver hair pinned neatly, her pearl earrings catching the morning light. She carried herself with the kind of grace money can buy, but her eyes, sharp, tired, told a different story. "Eleanor Mitchell?" she asked softly. I set my cup down. "Yes." She extended a manicured hand. "Margaret Carter, Olivia's mother. May I sit?" The name hit me like a wave, but I nodded. She lowered herself into the chair opposite me, folding her hands on the table. "I suppose you know why I'm here," she began. Her voice was calm, but I caught the faint tremor beneath it. "Olivia called me in tears. She says you're trying to ruin her life." I raised an eyebrow. "Her life, or her wedding?" Margaret studied me for a long moment, then sighed. "I came here prepared to scold you, to defend my daughter. But then I started hearing things about the down payment, about the bills, about the reception." Her eyes flicked toward the window, where raindrops clung stubbornly to the glass. "Eleanor, I've enabled Olivia her entire life, every tantrum rewarded, every mistake covered. When she totaled her car at 16, her father hired the best lawyer to wipe it clean. When she quit college halfway through, we told ourselves she'd find her passion. And when she demanded a wedding that cost more than most people's yearly income, I wrote a check." Her voice cracked then, but she pressed on. "I thought marriage might mature her, but seeing how she treats the woman who gave her everything." Margaret's gaze snapped back to mine, hard and unflinching. "I can't excuse that." I leaned back, stunned. Of all the allies Olivia expected, her own mother was not supposed to be the one turning. Margaret reached into her purse and pulled out a folded check. She slid it across the table without meeting my eyes. "Olivia begged me to give you this. 25,000. A good faith payment to buy time." I glanced at it, then back at her. "And what did you say?" She drew in a deep breath, then tore the check in half, the paper ripping clean and final. I told her no. If she wants a house, she should treat her Kona with respect. I won't keep bailing her out. Not anymore. The torn pieces lay between us like shards of glass. Margaret's voice softened. "Whatever you decide, Eleanor, whether you sell or force them to start over, you have my support. My daughter needs consequences. Real ones." For the first time in weeks, I felt something stir in my chest. Not victory, not vengeance, but validation. Even Olivia's own mother could see the truth. Asterisk, asterisk, 6 months later, life looked nothing like the battlefield it once was. I had traded the suffocating tension of James and Olivia's home for a 2-bedroom apartment in a senior community overlooking Lake Union. The mornings were quiet now, the sun painting the water in shades of silver, neighbors waving as they walked their dogs, the smell of fresh coffee drifting from the clubhouse cafe. For the first time in years, peace wasn't something I begged for, it was something I owned. Olivia called me one Saturday afternoon. Her voice was tired, but different, stronger. "Eleanor, I got promoted, office manager. It's not glamorous, but it feels good to be good at something." I smiled into the phone, though she couldn't see it. "You always had the skill, Olivia. You just never had to use it." There was a pause, and then her voice broke. "I owe you a real apology. Not the desperate kind from Victor's office. The real one. I was awful to you. I used you. I convinced myself you were dramatic when really, you were just human. And generous. Too generous." Her words landed differently this time. They didn't erase the hurt, but they planted something else. The seed of possibility. James, too, had softened. He still worked long hours, but now, he called me just to talk. Not for money, not for help, just to ask how I was doing. Sometimes, that simple act felt worth more than all the checks I had ever written. And me. I discovered myself again. I joined a book club. I planted herbs in the community garden. I even said yes to coffee with a kind man named Frank, who made me laugh in a way I hadn't since David was alive, for years. I thought love meant giving without limit, sacrificing until there was nothing left of me. But here's what I learned. Love without respect is just exploitation dressed in sentiment. Boundaries aren't walls to keep people out their doors that teach others how to treat you. If you're listening now, maybe you've been where I was. Maybe your kindness has been mistaken for weakness. Maybe your family, the people who should lift you up, have only taken and taken until you felt invisible. I want you to hear this. You are not invisible. Your voice matters. Your worth is not measured by what you give, but by who you are. And sometimes, the most loving thing you can do is say no. So I'll ask you, right now, what boundaries do you need to set? What would change if you stopped apologizing for protecting yourself? Share your story in the comments. Because when we speak, when we claim our truth, we remind each other that love with respect is possible, and that's a story worth telling.